Have you ever heard of a battle so decisive it literally saved Western civilization? I'm not talking about Marathon or Thermopylae, though they are legendary. Today we're diving deep into the often overlooked yet monumentally important Battle of Plataea. This wasn't just another clash of spears and shields. This was the final, epic showdown that ended the Persian invasion of Greece for good. Picture this. The year is 479 BC. A year has passed since the heroic last stand of the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae and the stunning naval victory for the Greeks at Salamis. King Xerxes of Persia, humiliated, has returned home, but he left behind his top general Mardonius with a massive elite army. Their mission? To finish what Xerxes started, to subjugate Greece and bring it under the Persian yoke. The Greek city-states, famous for their rivalries, were in a perilous position. Athens, the jewel of Greece, had been sacked and burned. Its people were refugees. Many northern Greek states had already submitted to Persia. The grand alliance that fought at Salamis was teetering on the brink of collapse. The Spartans were hesitant, seemingly content to defend their own peninsula, the Peloponnese, by fortifying the Isthmus of Corinth. It looked like Mardonius might just succeed through diplomacy and threats alone. But the Athenians, led by the brilliant Themistocles and the steady Aristides, played a masterful political game. They sent a desperate ultimatum to Sparta. "March with us now, or we will be forced to make our own peace with Persia." They weren't bluffing. If Athens allied its powerful rebuilt navy with Persia, no Greek city would be safe. The threat worked. Sparta, realizing the existential danger, finally mobilized its full army, the most feared land force in the known world. The fate of Greece would be decided not at sea, not at a narrow pass, but on the open plains of Boeotia, near a small town called Plataea. What followed was the largest Greek army ever assembled up to that point. Under the command of the Spartan regent, Pausanias, contingents from nearly every loyal city-state gathered. We're talking about Spartans, Athenians, Corinthians, Megarians, and dozens more. They weren't a unified professional army like the Persians. They were a coalition of citizen soldiers, farmers, artisans, and aristocrats, united by a single desperate cause: freedom. Facing them was Mardonius's formidable force, a multi-ethnic imperial army composed of elite Persian immortals, fearsome cavalry, and levies from across the vast Persian Empire, including even other Greeks who had been forced to fight for Xerxes. The two massive armies squared off near the Asopus River. For nearly 2 weeks, a tense and deadly stalemate ensued. It was a strategic chess match. Mardonius, with his superior cavalry, controlled the plains and launched harassing raids, trying to disrupt the Greek supply lines and lure them into a premature battle on ground favorable to his horsemen. The Greeks, heavily armored hoplites, knew their strength was in a set-piece, close-quarters infantry battle. They held the high ground, refusing to be drawn out. The air was thick with tension, punctuated by skirmishes and cavalry charges. The Persians even managed to poison the Gargantuan spring, the Greeks' main source of water, forcing them into a difficult decision. Pausanias, running low on supplies and water, devised a risky plan: a nighttime withdrawal to a new, better-supplied position closer to Plataea. But pulling back a massive, multi-contingent army in the dark, in the face of the enemy, is one of the most dangerous maneuvers in warfare. And as you might expect, it didn't go smoothly. The plan became chaotic. Different contingents moved at different speeds. Some got lost, and the Greek center pulled back further than intended, leaving the battle line fragmented and dangerously exposed. As dawn broke, Mardonius saw his chance. Believing the Greeks were in full panicked retreat, he ordered an all-out assault. "They're running," he must have thought. "Victory is ours." The Persian cavalry and elite infantry surged forward, fording the river and charging uphill towards what they thought were fleeing remnants. They slammed first into the Spartans, Tegeans, and Helots on the Greek right wing, who had been the last to withdraw and were now isolated on a ridge. This was the moment of truth. This was where the Spartan legend was forged not by 300 but by thousands. Outnumbered, showered with a storm of arrows, the Spartans held their ground. Pausanias, seeing the Persian advance, made a sacrifice to the gods. For agonizing moments, the omens were bad, and the Spartans stood firm, taking casualties without retaliating, their discipline absolute. Then, finally, the omens turned favorable. Pausanias gave the order. With a thunderous cry, the Spartan phalanx lowered their spears and charged downhill into the Persian lines. The impact was devastating. The long spears and heavy bronze shields of the hoplites were far superior to the Persians' wicker shields and shorter weapons in close combat. A brutal, grinding melee ensued. It was a wall of shields against a sea of men. Mardonius himself, a brave and charismatic commander, fought on horseback in the thick of the action, surrounded by his elite bodyguard. He was the heart of the Persian army, inspiring his men to fight with incredible ferocity. Meanwhile, on the Greek left flank, the Athenians were locked in a desperate struggle of their own against the Thebans and other pro-Persian Greeks. This was a bitter civil war within a larger conflict, fought with a special kind of hatred reserved for countrymen on opposite sides. The Athenians, battle-hardened and determined, slowly began to gain the upper hand. The turning point of the entire battle, and perhaps the war, came when a Spartan soldier named Arimnestus spotted Mardonius. He hurled a rock, or perhaps a spear, accounts differ, with deadly accuracy. The missile struck Mardonius in the head, killing him instantly. With their leader gone, the morale of the Persian forces shattered. The command structure collapsed. Panic spread like wildfire. The disciplined advance turned into a disorganized rout. The Persians broke and fled back towards their fortified camp. The Greeks, smelling blood, gave chase. The Spartans, Athenians, and others converged on the Persian stockade. For a time, the wooden walls held, but the Athenians, with their experience in siege warfare from their city's own fortifications, managed to breach the defenses. What followed was a grim scene. The enraged Greeks poured into the camp, and with the exception of a large Persian contingent that had managed to flee the battlefield earlier, very few were spared. The will of the Persian Empire to conquer Greece was annihilated in that camp. The aftermath of Plataea was profound. The threat that had loomed over Greece for years was finally and completely extinguished. The victory secured the independence of the Greek city-states and allowed their unique culture to flourish. This flourishing would give the world democracy, philosophy, theater, and so much more, the very foundations of Western thought. Plataea wasn't just a military victory, it was a victory for an idea, the idea that free citizens fighting for their homes and their liberty could defeat the seemingly limitless power of a despotic empire. It's a powerful lesson that echoes through history. So the next time you hear the stories of Thermopylae and Salamis, remember the final act. Remember the grit, the chaos, and the ultimate triumph on the fields of Plataea, the battle that truly saved the West. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey back in time as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into history. Let me know in the comments which overlooked battle you'd like to see covered next. Until then, stay curious.